I'd like to mention the Chinese currency rallied a bit against the dollar. That seems to be what traders look for when they want to trade on optimism regarding phase one trade deal. Bill, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. See you later. So, investors have been cheering Sundar
Pichai, you got it.
I know, I was practicing and then I get it wrong. Sundar Pichai's new role as CEO of both Google and parent company Alphabet. But did he just accept the worst job in Silicon Valley? We're going to explain more when Power Lunch continues.
The Bond Report.
My name's Ian, and I run the Christmas Centres for Crisis. Many people in Britain are homeless, stuck in hostels, sleeping on floors, even on the street. You can change this. Our Christmas Centres provide people with food, safety and support, and show them how Crisis can help them find a home and a job in the year ahead. You can reserve a place at Crisis this Christmas for just £28.87. Search Support Crisis Reserve and help someone take their first step out of homelessness this Christmas. Thank you.
This week at Tesco, buy 2 items from our chilled party food range, like tempura prawns or mozzarella sticks, and get a third one free. So for every 2 people you invite, you can ask another for free. But who? Linda from Accounts or Julio from Magaluf 2010? Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
Ho, ho, ho! Want to make Santa's job a whole lot easier this year? TuneIn Premium is the gift your loved ones can enjoy all year long. Featuring commercial-free news from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and CNBC, plus music, podcasts, and live sports. TuneIn Premium brings the best audio to you. Forget the stocking. And stuff their phone with the Everything Audio app. Search Premium to upgrade today. Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from one minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations,
live commercial-free news,
and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game.
Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Welcome back. Google CEO Sundar Pichai has a new job. He's now also CEO of parent company Alphabet after co-founder Larry Page stepped down from the role. Deidre Bosa joins us now with the details on the challenges facing Pichai. Deidre.
Well, Seema, this job looks a little different than it did a few years ago. The question isn't, can Pichai continue to run and grow the business? He's essentially already been doing that. The bigger question is, can he handle the heat? Can he juggle all the challenges on the horizon from employee activism to regulatory pressures as well? Now, Pichai joined Google in 2004 as a project manager, and he oversaw some of the most important units like Chrome and Android. But aside from testifying before Congress in Page's place last year, he is relatively untested when it comes to the type of battles that other big tech CEOs like Cook and Zuckerberg have been fighting. Now, another challenge is that while Pichai has the title, he doesn't actually have the control. Page and Brin still do, with more than 50% of voting shares. Other founders that have stepped away from their companies, like Oracle's Larry Ellison and Microsoft's Bill Gates, they don't have majority control. Now, this is a point that has not been lost on Alphabet's biggest critics either. About an hour ago, Elizabeth Warren tweeting, "Congrats on the move, Larry Page. Quick reminder, we do still expect you to testify before Congress. And changing your title while staying on the board and retaining effective control will not exempt you from accountability." So While this clears up an unusual corporate structure, guys, it also comes with a number of complications.
Well, exactly. I mean, you've got the two founders still sitting on the board, and you've got this structure that they put together, so you wonder whether Sundar will feel confident enough, if he doesn't like that structure, to change it and maybe even jettison some of those so-called moonshot pet projects that Larry and Sergey have had. This is probably why they call it the worst job in Silicon Valley right now, right?
Well, they're moonshot projects. They're also money-losing projects,
exactly.
Right? So you have to wonder, how is Sundar Pichai, as well as his deputy, CFO Ruth Porat, how are they going to approach these projects when they've been busy running the businesses that make up 99% of overall revenue? So, that's a big question. And if they want to jettison some of them, can they? Remember, Page and Bryn, they still control majority of the company, and they're still on the board. So they could simply get rid of Pichai if they wanted to, theoretically, and bring in a new CEO who was on board with that founder mentality and perhaps some of those moonshots.
And we were talking earlier this morning, wondering what kind of a CEO do you think Sundar will be? Will he be a Tim Cook? Will he be a Steve Ballmer? It remains to be seen how he proceeds to try and carve out his own niche in this company, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's what everyone's trying to figure out right now. He's relatively untested. We did see him testify in front of Congress. He was appropriately evasive, as you've seen, Zuckerberg, for example, or some of the other Facebook CEOs didn't give them more ammunition. So we know that he's mild-mannered, but he's not a founder, remember? He didn't found this company. So how is he going to approach innovation? Perhaps the question isn't what does Alphabet look like a few years from now? What does it look like 10 years from now if he's not putting the same innovation? We just don't know that yet.
Yet, exactly. Deirdre Bosa in San Francisco. Thanks. See you later. And we start with another C-suite shuffle to start off today's tasting menu. Expedia CEO Mark Okerstrom and CFO Alan Pickerel are both stepping down from their roles at the company. According to Chairman Barry Diller, tensions over strategy and third quarter results led to both of their departure. Shares of Expedia, you never want to see this when you leave the company as CEO, that the stock has gone up 6% today.
Right, and since Mark Okerstrom took that job in late August of 2017, the stock is down about 26%. So Wall Street has certainly become more concerned about Expedia's trajectory, its management style led by Mark, and also how it's going to compete with the likes of Google, which has become very aggressive in travel, trying to push up its results over Expedia's and other travel operators, plus Booking Holdings doing pretty well in the face of that threat.
And don't forget who he had to follow.
Dara Khosrowshahi, who's now at
superstar,
Uber, and look at how his stock is done over there. So certainly the search is now on for a new CEO, Expedia. Moving on, 50 new jets are making their way to United Airlines, and they won't be coming from Boeing. United recently ordered Airbus jets to replace its current Boeing 757-220 planes. JetBlue and American Airlines have also opted in for the Airbus jets this year for long-haul flights. Airbus soaring on the news, up over 2%.
I think what we're learning is that Boeing, during their terrible year that they've had here, they've taken their eye off the ball of other jets. They don't just make the 737 MAX, they make these others, and they lost a huge contract now to Airbus in this particular case, with United Airlines taking the other guy.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Two firms are sounding the alarm for fast food chains. Wedbush says that fast food chains like Shake Shack and Jack in the Box are getting caught in the crosshairs of a global protein shortage. According to Guggenheim, Wendy's and McDonald's could force to pivot toward more chicken items on their menu. As a result, beef prices hit peak levels in November. They remain above last year's prices.
Just when we thought Beyond Meat was the big disruptor in this space.
Well, and that's why I find it interesting that we're going to see a protein shortage, because I would think demand would be going down.
Right,
because you have
alternative
more,
meats
exactly.
on the rise, but clearly there's still more work to be done here.
Making sense.
Shares of Slack falling more than 2% today ahead of earnings, and down more than 15% since going public. We'll take a look at the key numbers to watch after the bell. That's next.
Want to make Santa's job a whole lot easier this year? TuneIn Premium is the gift your loved ones can enjoy all year long. Featuring commercial-free news from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and CNBC, plus music, podcasts, and live sports. TuneIn Premium brings the best audio to you. Forget the stocking. And stuff their phone with the Everything Audio app. Search Premium to upgrade today.
To LeBron, slam dunk.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers are in Milwaukee to take on Giannis and the Bucks.
Hart pulls back, trying to make it 11-2.
Kawhi Leonard is all over the place.
This Friday, the LA Clippers are at the Milwaukee Bucks. Tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
Running down the sideline.
It's College Football Conference Championship weekend, and TuneIn is your home to hear all the champions crowned. This Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the SEC Championship. The undefeated LSU Tigers, led by the Heisman frontrunner quarterback Joe Burrow, look to cap their perfect regular season. However, it won't be easy as their opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, will be hungry to pull off the upset and earn their ticket to the college football playoff. Catch all the action on TuneIn. Search college football to find your game.
Along the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, and a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Welcome back. We have a market flash on biotech company Allakos. Meg Terrell stepping in with details on that. What's going on?
Hey, Bill. Well, the company's stock is soaring on a report that it's hired a financial advisor to explore strategic options, including a potential sale. That report coming from Bloomberg, citing people familiar with the matter. The stock up now more than 40%. It had been briefly halted and rose about 10% before then. Market value of about $5 billion. So this could be a potentially substantial sale. CEO Robert Alexander had previously been CEO of a company called ZS Pharma, which he sold to AstraZeneca. So folks in the biotech world telling me he is seen as a potential seller here. And of course, this would come after a slew of similar sized biotech deals in this space, which has sent the XBI biotech ETF up to a 52-week high today. Seema, back over to you.
Wow, a lot of big movers in biotech. Now we await those results from Biogen tomorrow. Meg, thank you. Thanks. Switching gears to Slack, getting set to report its results after the bell, as the stock has been in a free fall since it went public, down 15%. Wall Street will be waiting for the company to give its latest number of daily active users. Rival Microsoft reported last month that its Teams platform has significantly eclipsed Slack's DAUs by around 8 million. Here with us now is the first analyst to cover Slack, Rishi Jaluria, Senior Vice President and Senior Research Analyst at D.A. Davidson. Rishi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This was really one of the hot, newly listed companies, right? Unlike Uber and Lyft, we saw Slack, its reference price was 26, went all the way up to 42, and since then, it's really been on a free fall to the downside. What are you expecting to hear from the company tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think investors are really going to be looking for what impact has Microsoft had on the dynamic here, right? Because you have to put yourself in Microsoft's shoes. The success that Slack has been getting, and especially within tech and tech-forward companies, actually threatens a little bit of the core of what Microsoft does, right? Because people are spending less time on Outlook, and that's a big part of their business. And that's, I think, why you've seen Microsoft's messaging around Teams and around their daily active users get so aggressive. So I think any commentary, if there's been any changes in the competitive dynamics and in sales cycles from Slack's perspective, I think that's number one of what people are looking for. And then number two, investors just want to see that there's signs of kind of a stabilization in revenue growth, that we're not seeing kind of continued deceleration.
Forgive me, but I don't understand why there's so much obsession with Microsoft and Teams as it relates to the growth possibilities for Slack. I mean, just the fact that Microsoft has a competing product that may or may not have more daily active users than Slack does, are they suggesting then that companies will choose Microsoft over Slack simply because of that? Or I don't understand.
I mean, I totally agree with you.
If it's a good product, the company's going to take it, right?
I fully agree with you, and it's a huge market. I think what Microsoft is happening is it's the good enough effect, where investors are worried when you're paying a multiple as high as Slack trades at, that maybe at one point in time, Teams could become good enough that it threatens a future growth prospects. Not that anyone's switching from Slack over to Teams, but down the line, does this make it harder for Slack to get into new companies? That's what I think people are worried about. But I agree with you. I think people are misreading the situation and overly concerned about Microsoft.
Slack is currently unprofitable. When do you think that changes? And is that something that management will discuss tonight?
I wouldn't expect them to discuss that tonight, but my take on Slack is, and we've seen this with Uber and Lyft and everything, is it's less about profitability today and more, is there a clear and distinct path to profitability? And I think Slack has very clearly demonstrated that. They've got really high gross margins, they've got really strong sales efficiency, strong expansion rates. So all those pieces are in place, and I think investors understand there's that path to profitability.
Quickly, you think the story would have been different had they gone the IPO route versus a direct listing?
It's a tricky question, but I think with the IPO route, maybe you'd have less of this confusion around why do people use Slack? Is Teams really good enough?
That's why you have a roadshow.
I would agree.
Rishi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll watch the results tonight. Rishi Jewelry, Check Please is next.
Oh, boy.
In a changing environment.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Bah humbug.
Even Scrooge appreciates the value of TuneIn Premium. Give the gift of endless audio to your friends and family. Ho, ho, ho! Search Premium to upgrade today.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from 1 minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Running down the sidelines and running in for the touchdown. And it is good.
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Dallas Cowboys visit the Chicago Bears at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
It's a block. Easy touchdown. A walk-in touchdown. The third time's a charm.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Please. Now, we had the CEO of Crocs on earlier, and we mentioned how they're very popular with teenagers right now, and I think a big part of that are these gibbets. And what's a gibbet? They help you personalize. These happen to be Seema's Crocs here.
Right.
So you want to explain what all these things are, but you put them on, you take them off.
Sauce.
You can personalize your Croc that way.
But to your point, this is exactly why American teens love Crocs, because you can customize your shoes, you can stand out. This is a way you can show your personality. They're colorful, and you can change them up. So you don't need to necessarily go to the store and buy a new pair of shoes, a new pair of Nikes. You can just use the same ones, but change up the gibbets.
But for how long? I'm
That
with
is-
you.
that is
Teen
the question.
consumers are very, very fickle. We'll see how long that lasts.
For now, they're loving it.
That's it. Thanks for watching Power Lunch.
Closing bell starts right now. Welcome to the Closing Bell. I'm Morgan Brennan in for Sarah Eisen at the Slack Post, which is a direct listing, recent listing. You can see shares there down 3% ahead of earnings after the bell. The broader market, though, is higher. Dow's up more than 200 points with 59 minutes left to go.
And I'm Wilfred Frost. Good afternoon to you. Let's have a look at what's driving the action today. Renewed hopes of a trade deal as President Trump says negotiations with China are going, quote, very well. Weaker than expected economic data this morning as growth in the services sector and private payroll slows. And oil having its best day since September. WTI up around 4%. And a quick reminder, it's now been 53 days since the president announced that the Phase 1 deal with China was agreed and just waiting to be inked. That's 53 days and counting. Joining us for the full first hour of the show, Ritholtz Wealth Management CEO Josh Brand. Did I pronounce the company right this week?
Nailed it.
Excellent progress. What's your main takeaway, Josh, for the start of December and how markets have reacted?
Look, daily RSI. So let me back up real quick. People toss around these terms overbought, oversold, but they use them almost qualitatively, like based on how they feel. Oh, the market went up a lot, it's overbought. There's an actual technical definition to things like being overbought. And by any stretch of any way you want to look at it, we were overbought on something called daily RSI. It's a relative strength index. For the S&P 500, we hit 75. That is the most overbought we've been technically since you have to go back to January of 2018. And we know what happened after that, a very swift 17% sell-off. So it's not shocking that you have big down 400-point day in the Dow, but the big takeaway for me to answer your question is the biggest mistake you can make is go to these extremes of bullishness, bearishness based on each day's action. So today is the mirror image of yesterday, total reverse. But tomorrow could be a reverse of today. And nothing specific, fundamental, has to have changed. And I think you have to just get yourself in that mode where you accept the fact that not every day's activity is worth extrapolating. Today, you got a new all-time high in consumer staples, back on the horse like nothing ever happened yesterday. And you may see that in banks, too. Huge reversals in banks. Regionals up big today. They looked like death yesterday. So this is the mentality you need to adopt. You can't take each day and completely change how you feel about everything. It's a money loser.
All right, we've got a lot more with Josh for the next hour plus, but let's focus in on the big stories that we're watching today. Kayla Tausche has details on the trade headlines that kicked off today's rally. Steve Leisman is tracking today's weak jobs data, and Mike Santoli is kicking off his market dashboard with a look at Google's big C-suite changes. But Kayla, first to you on trade.
Well, Morgan, what a difference between today and yesterday. It's exemplary of how quickly the outlook on trade can change. Yesterday, President Trump was pessimistic about a pre-election deal, but today, everything is fine. The negotiators have provided no detail for why that is, and the White House and agencies involved have stopped providing readouts of calls between principals. I spoke to Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue today. He said it remains to be seen whether the two sides will hold a call before the next deadline, but he did acknowledge that China's been buying soybeans from Brazil and Argentina instead of the U.S., and that tariffs on those countries are a result of that. In addition to hitting China's soybean suppliers and signing a bill backing Hong Kong's demonstrators, lawmakers now also want an audit of China's business scoring system that may penalize U.S. companies doing business there. All of this is ramping up pressure to try to get China to cave by the 15th, Wilf. We'll see how this all shakes out.
Caleb, we certainly will, but either way, the market, as we just discussed with Josh, reacting positively today. S&P's up 0.8%. We are just 2 days away from Friday's key jobs number, but one employment metric, which was out this morning, raised some red flags. Steve Leisman's back at HQ with more on that. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Wilf, yeah, big miss today on ADP, raising concern that the Friday jobs number from the government could come in weaker than expected. ADP saying total private payroll is rising just 67,000. Street was looking for 150,000, and that's down from a weak number in September already, 121,000. Goods sector, the big part of the miss there, down 18,000. Service sector, okay at 85. And there's the non-farm payroll estimate for Friday, 187,000. That's private and government employment. Few, if any, economists actually lowered their forecast in the wake of it, but several reacted like Mike England, Action Economics, who said, quote, the ADP data implied downside risk for Friday's jobs report, where we still expect a 190,000 payroll gain. Economists struggle with why job growth is yet to weaken along with overall economic growth. 3-month average for job growth fell from above 200,000 monthly, that was the beginning of the year, to just south of 150,000 that April through July period. It's since popped back up to 176,000. So a slight miss in the ISM service sector suggests some slowing there, but that the sector is not feeling much of the effects of a broader manufacturing slowdown. The Friday jobs report going to give us a clue as to whether job growth will slow with the overall economy, if it can keep making its way through these headwinds as it has been, Wilf.
All right, Steve Leisman, thank you. We got a lot more to watch here over the next couple of days. Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for today's market dashboard, though. Mike.
Hi, Morgan. Yeah, you guys mentioned going to take a look at Google as its founders step back. That's in found money. We're going to compare them to some other very popular and famous and successful tech founders. Lost decade for stock picking around the world compared to the U.S. That's a pretty stark chart we have there. And then seeking a frontier evaluation for the U.S. market compared to its bull market average. And then finally, finding the good, some corporate values being conveyed in conference calls. So here we have a chart that tracks Alphabet against Microsoft, Salesforce, and Amazon. Each of them tracked 15 years since their IPO. Google came public 15 years and 3 months ago. We used the same time period from the IPO to 15 years and 3 months later for each of these. Now, first thing to say is there are no losers on this list. Alphabet has increased nearly 3,000%. That's 24% a year compounded for more than 15 years. It's a tremendous return, but really just also points up Microsoft. I mean, can you believe this? It was up almost 60,000% from its 1986 IPO. By the way, Bill Gates, when did he step down as CEO? When did he step back? Right about there. He had absolute perfect timing on the entire thing. Amazon, no surprise, still has its founding CEO, as we all know. And then Salesforce, Mark Benioff, backed away, has a co-CEO now, but that happened right about there. That's been a great performer, too. By the way, guys, Microsoft, at its IPO, was trading. It was already profitable at about 8 times earnings. So it has everything to do with the era. In the 80s, we didn't give multiples to tech companies. That obviously has changed.
Mike, I mean, it's just a fascinating snapshot, that, and it's incredible to see how much Microsoft outperforms, even despite its decade or so's worth of pullback, and also how small Satya Nadella's bounce back, which we all know has been so impressive, looks relative to the earlier fall.
That's exactly right. I mean, it was a $600 billion market value company 20 years ago. So think about that. Right now, $600 billion is a tremendous company. There's only a handful that big, and that was 20 years ago for Microsoft.
Mike, thanks very much. See you again later. Now, Expedia, one of the big corporate stories today. Barry Diller making a change at the top of his sprawling internet and media empire. Diller is the chairman at IAC and Expedia, and announced today that he has deposed both the CEO and CFO of Expedia. Diller blames disagreements in strategy between management and the board and will oversee day-to-day operations until the board works out a long-term leadership plan. With shares down more than 20% in the last month, could this shake-up lead to a much-needed turnaround? For more, let's bring in Daniel Kurnos from the Benchmark company, and Kevin Koppelman from Karen. A very good afternoon to you both. Daniel, I'll start with you. What was your take on the outgoing leadership, on how they'd been doing?
You know, it's hard to say that they've been doing a great job. I think that sort of Wall Street was looking for an acceleration in growth, and they weren't really getting it. I think 2020, after all the investments they made in migration to the cloud, was supposed to be a nice margin expansion year. They've got a lot less indexing to hotel than booking, so a lot more greenfield opportunity. They're rolling out supply in multiple countries across the world. And so all of a sudden, out of the blue, you get kind of this growth cut outlook. And, I think it was a big surprise, almost like the announcement today.
So, Kevin, I mean, we're seeing the stock rally like 6.5% today on this news, but there are some bigger, potentially much more challenging issues facing Expedia right now, whether it's the SEO search and what's happened with Google, whether it's the competition, whether it's this need to push into short-term rentals. How does that play out? And I guess how sustainable then is the bounce we're seeing in the stock today?
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's important to point out that Expedia is a healthy company. They'll do over $110 billion of travel bookings next year. and they do over $1 billion in operating income. Over half of their bookings are in high margin lodging. So when you look at some of these pressures like declining free Google traffic, definitely an issue, but there's also a lot of opportunity, and I think that's why I think it's one of the reasons you see the stock react positively today, particularly when it comes to the potential to do some cost cutting given their low margins today.
Daniel, who could run this company? Are there already names being tossed around right now, or a name that you would like to see?
You know, that's a really tricky question. I think everybody liked Dara's leadership before he took off for Uber. I don't know that there are any sort of organic choices within the company. I think externally, it's hard to see somebody just slotting themselves right in on the long-term outlook here. I think, you know, near term, since SEO was an issue, clearly having Barry Diller, IAC, right, you know, that could lead to some immediate fixes without putting somebody in place. So I don't think you're going to see any near-term hiccups, but you're going to need to have somebody come in who can actually run the long-term plan here. And I'm not sure they have somebody earmarked for that yet.
Josh, what's your take on this ruthlessness from Barry Diller? Do you love it, hate it?
Well, I think Barry Diller, as the most interested shareholder in the equation, ought to get his way. It's the way we've built the markets, and it makes sense to me. I'm just curious for either of you gentlemen, are there too many options for booking travel? I know there's been some consolidation over the last 20 years, but maybe not enough. And let's also keep in mind that they compete directly with airlines and directly with hotel booking as well. So it's like, how many of these should there be to right-size this market?
Look, I would tell you that you have a lot of options, true, but we haven't really seen hotel get their act together until maybe the last 5 years. You know, they've tried a bunch of different solutions and just haven't had any traction. I think if you look at the bookings growth rate across the industry, you can see that hotel has maybe started to take back a point or two of share, but it's not been super meaningful. I think the bigger battleground where you probably see that consolidation is in alternative lodging. I mean, that's really where you get, you know, the Airbnbs, you know, maybe where Expedia went wrong was with the Vrbo rebrand. I don't know that that was very well received. The growth rate's been very muted there. And so alternative lodging clearly has a lot of room to consolidate, but kind of core OTA, I think, you know, we're sort of in a good place there. We'll see what happens, you know, recession, counter-cyclicality, maybe we get some there. Maybe the story looks a little bit different, but in the near term, I feel like, you know, the player base is about right.
Kevin, can we see divestitures of some of the brands within the Expedia portfolio?
No, when you look at the slide that you had up there, a number of those brands are actually owned by Expedia, and most of them are running on a single platform. So if you look at Hotels.com, Brand Expedia, Travelocity, Orbitz, those are all on basically the same platform. So they've already realized, you know, a number of cost savings there. You're not going to see them get rid of those. And I think Daniel, when you talk about consolidation, you have three huge players, and that's Expedia, Booking.com, and Airbnb. And so we've already seen significant consolidation there. And the fact is consumers like to go to a site where they can compare across the millions of lodging options, and that's what these sites are providing.
Daniel and Kevin, thank you both very much for joining us. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, crude oil seeing its biggest pop since September as OPEC members get set to meet in Vienna. We'll break down what to expect from that key meeting with RBC's Halima Croft.
Plus, Peloton's holiday ad going viral for the wrong reasons, sparking an outpouring of reactions on Twitter. And today, the company is fighting back. We'll tell you their response and what the stock's doing right after the break.
This CNBC program is...
Christmas, a time for sharing gifts and laughter, and photos and videos. Make the most of it with a SIM-only deal packed with data from Tesco Mobile. Like a 10-gig SIM for just £13 a month. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile today. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 29th of December. 12-month contract and unlocked 4G-enabled phone required. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms. The Honda Jazz, the car that feels fabulously small on the outside, yet deceptively big on the inside, with its incredible storage solutions and magic folding seats. Not to mention the suite of advanced safety features. And now with the small but big Jazz event, it's available with 0% APR representative and 5 years complimentary servicing until January 31st.
Visit your local dealer to find out more. Honda dealers are credit brokers, not lenders. Finance provided by Honda Finance Europe, authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Terms and conditions apply.
Bah humbug. Even Scrooge appreciates the value of TuneIn Premium. Give the gift of endless audio to your friends and family. Ho, ho, ho. Search Premium to upgrade today.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 podcasts, season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 podcasts on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
44 minutes left to go in the session. Major averages are higher, snapping a 3-day losing streak. The Dow's up 191 points. The S&P is up 23, regaining all the losses that we saw yesterday. As I mentioned, we got less than 44 minutes to go.
Let's check in on some individual market movers. GoPro surged at the open, up 9%, but fell throughout the session. It's now up just 2%. CEO Nick Woodman commenting on the kickoff to holiday shopping season in a news release, quote, "We crushed it." The stock, of course, a fraction of what it was valued at back at 2014 prices. And it is, as we said, up 2% today. And Peloton has been in the news because of the strong reactions to its holiday commercial. The company responding in part, quote, "We're disappointed in how some have misinterpreted this commercial," and sending CNBC several pages of positive emails it had received from customers about the ad. The stock was down 8% or so since Monday, but surged on Black Friday on report of strong sales. We'll get the price up for you now. I mean, my take on all of these commercials, because there's been plenty before it, which people have reacted to as well, is it's poor execution as opposed to necessarily poor targeting. They have a very, very expensive product. They've got to go after a certain demographic of people. Some of them are pretty cringeworthy. Poor execution rather than necessarily the wrong target. It does also remind us, though, how big is their addressable market? It's an expensive product. They've got to be focused. We'll see how long the growth rates.
That's not what's offensive though about the commercial.
I think there's been lots of different takedowns about, oh look, here's my nice Peloton in a really expensive apartment.
So that's
and all
one.
that kind
That's
of
one.
That's one of the
group.
Yeah,
and then the other group is saying it's sexist. And I think if it were funny, like if there were more humor in the commercial, people would say I get the joke. But they're like doing this sort of seriously.
Yeah.
And I guess people don't like to be depicted that way. But I know male and female people that are like that with their Pelotons. And
yeah, lots of people have, exactly.
They're worthy of scorn regardless of what gender they are.
So. It's like the sorry, not sorry statement. Shares are down about 2% right
Let's
now.
get out of this segment before I get in trouble.
All right, we'll keep it moving. We should mention our parent company, NBC Universal, is an investor in Peloton. Oil prices.
Forget everything I just said.
Oil prices are rising more than 4% today after new data showing a bigger than expected drop in U.S. oil inventories. Meanwhile, OPEC is set to meet in Vienna, where it may increase production cuts. Joining us now from Vienna is Halima Croft of RBC Capital Markets. Halima, great to have you. Key things to be watching from this OPEC meeting. that officially kicks off tomorrow, especially given the fact that we've had some geopolitical events just in the last couple of days that could affect crude prices.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all eyes are going to be on the question of, does OPEC go deeper with their cuts? Now, the Iraqi oil minister came out at the end of last week and earlier this week doubled down on comments that OPEC was looking potentially to increase their cut by 400,000 barrels. And that is leading to expectations that we could get a deeper cut. I think it also, though, is posing a challenge for OPEC because now this deeper cut scenario is becoming baked in. And if OPEC fails to deliver that deeper cut, if they just roll over the existing 1.2 million barrel a day production cut for, 6 months, that's going to be a disappointment. So I think they're working very hard right now to come out with something that satisfies the market and prevents a sell-off.
Halima, I'm interested on your take on what the overall theme amongst some of the most high-profile OPEC members is there, particularly the Saudis, in terms of the level of support they feel they still have from the U.S. and U.S. allies, given some of the geopolitical things we've seen erupt over the last couple of months, whether that's involving Turkey and Syria or the Iranian attack on Saudi Arabia.
No, I think that has been a big question mark, not only for Saudi Arabia, but for Kuwait, for the UAE, is what is the U.S. role in protecting our key allies in the Middle East? What is the U.S. role in protecting critical Gulf energy infrastructure? Do we still have the Carter Doctrine, which was the doctrine that the U.S. would protect these energy assets? And, President Trump has been really clear that a lot of the Middle Eastern oil is going to Asia, not to the United States. So he does not believe he needs to become as involved in protecting these interests as previous administrations would have been. The U.S. energy story, I think, is facilitating a U.S. repositioning of its role in the Middle East.
What does that mean? Just to dig into that a little bit further, because certainly here in the U.S., we've seen rig counts come down, a lot of question marks around producers, given the fact that oil prices here have kind of been stubbornly stuck in the 50s all year. The intersection between U.S. producers and OPEC, is it changing?
No, I think that's an interesting question because I think the U.S. producers have been given a significant financial lifeline by OPEC. And President Trump has been very critical of the producer organization. He's been taking to social media, calling for them to put additional barrels on the market. And yet, if you talk to OPEC officials, they say, look, we have helped out U.S. shale producers for providing this floor in terms of prices. Now, the geopolitical question is, again, for a lot of the OPEC countries is, if we get further attacks on key allies in the Middle East, because I think there's a view that the Iranians are not done in terms of causing discontent and problems in the region because they want sanctions removed. If we see more attacks like we have seen since May on critical Gulf energy infrastructure, will the United States do anything to establish deterrence again in the region?
Josh, what's your take as to whether the broad sector performance of energy, we might dive into some names later, but the broad sector performance is overdone this year relative to all the other sectors in the S&P?
Yeah, and a lot of value investors find themselves looking at these energy names as the calendar turns over. And maybe 2020 is the year there's some mean reversion because they've been trailing. We actually ripped through a ton of charts at the industry level and then some individual stocks. Stay tuned for my last chance trade because, believe it or not, it is energy related. Found a good one.
All right. Got that cliffhanger for
like
you.
How I did that?
Yeah, that was good.
I've been doing this.
All right. Halima Croft from RBC, thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great trip. Tune in tomorrow for live coverage of the OPEC meetings. CNBC's Brian Sullivan. Meantime, we have got less than 40 minutes before the bell. The Dow is currently up 199 points. The S&P is also up 0.7%. NASDAQ up 0.6%, all snapping 3-day losing streaks for the major averages. After the break, two firms out with new calls on rising beef prices, laying out the food names that could be impacted the most. We're going to break that down next.
And later, we're counting down to a big afternoon of earnings, including results from Slack and the first report from RH since Berkshire disclosed its stake in the company. We'll preview what to expect in today's Market Zone.
Want to make Santa's job a whole lot easier this year? Tune in Premium is the gift your loved ones can enjoy all year long. featuring commercial-free news from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and CNBC, plus music, podcasts, and live sports. TuneIn Premium brings the best audio to you. Forget the stalking. And stuff their phone with the Everything Audio app. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Want TuneIn to remind you when the big NFL game is about to get underway? Be sure notifications are allowed on your phone and search NFL on the TuneIn app. Find the game you want to hear under events and tap Notify Me. We'll let you know exactly when it's time to listen in for kickoff.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, the actor Billy Porter talks about the hard years before the acclaim.
I had just gone through way too many almosts because I was too gay or too black or not urban enough. Like, oh, you're just so special. And it's like you hear that so often. It's like special doesn't pay the bills.
Listen to this episode of the New Yorker Radio Hour on TuneIn today.
It's College Football Conference Championship weekend, and TuneIn is your home to hear all the champions crowned. This Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the SEC Championship. The undefeated LSU Tigers, led by the Heisman frontrunner quarterback Joe Burrow, look to cap their perfect regular season. However, it won't be easy as their opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, will be hungry to pull off the upset and earn their ticket to the college football playoff. Catch all the action on TuneIn. Search college football to find your game.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night! And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. It is time now to get to the word on the street. Cowen naming United Technologies its best idea for 2020, calling it a stock for all seasons. Firms saying United Tech's Otis and Pratt & Whitney divisions are at cyclical turning points. Plus, Cowen continues to like the proposed Raytheon merger, which they say, quote, gives the story additional legs. You can see right there, shares are up 1%. Maxim Group reiterating its sell rating on Apple and a $190 price target. The firm cites proprietary survey data that shows declining iPhone user retention rates, saying that in the last 2 years, the outflux of iPhone users has risen to 9% from 5%. Stock's still up 1%, though.
It is. And where's the beef? Wedbush Securities and Guggenheim out with cautious outlooks on beef prices going into 2020. Wedbush thinks beef costs could be a bigger risk than pork given supply decline, and Guggenheim expects restaurants to lean into chicken products for better value. Wedbush says names like Shake Shack, Habit Restaurant, Jack in the Box, and Wendy's are the most exposed to rising beef costs. A little bit of share price movement off the back of that, as you can see. Habit and Jack in the Box down 1.5% themselves. What's your take on these restaurant brands? Still like Shake Shack despite this beef price warning?
I do, and actually lately I've been getting the Chicken Shack.
Which is excellent.
Yeah, my nutritionist wants me to have more chicken, less burgers.
Right.
So I have 2 of those.
So you have 2 of those.
Yeah.
And,
But these chickens-
with the bun and the nice covering. It's excellent.
But these chicken sandwich wars have been a big thing, and now it seems like maybe there's financial incentive to be.
The chicken sandwich wars were no joke this year, but I think I'm ready to crown the winner. It's Chick-fil-A, right?
Oh.
And then I think
Chick-fil-A's good.
Listen, the Popeyes
The
one
Popeyes one's good too.
it's good, but it's very fast foody. Like you feel like you ate fast food after it, and believe me, I know. The Shack one is less calories. It's not quite as big. You could have plans after.
Have you tried?
You don't have to clear your schedule after.
Have you tried the tofurkey one?
No.
It's you should.
Not kosher.
We're trying a different product later in the show today, which I'm looking forward to immensely.
I'm sure you are.
Are you a greater expert on stocks or burgers?
I'm torn. But when you have a talent, like, I feel like it's
do you do more volume
obligation
in
to
stocks or
share it with
burgers?
the world. Come on. Way more volume in stocks.
All right.
Great discussion.
31 minutes left to
We're
go.
going to take a break in this fat shaming, and guess what? Next segment. Here are the three things driving the action.
Renewed hopes of a trade deal as President Trump says negotiations with China are going, quote, very well. Weaker than expected economic data this morning as growth in the services sector and private payrolls slows. And oil having its best day since September. WTI is up better than 4% right now.
It is time for a CNBC News Update. Sue Herrera's got it for us. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Wilf. Hello, everybody. Here's what's happening at this hour. President Trump departing London after attending the NATO 70th anniversary summit. Earlier, he blasted House Intelligence Committee Chair Adam Schiff at a NATO news conference.
I think it's, it's a disgrace. You have a loser, like the guy's a stone-cold loser, has been all his life, Adam Schiff. And then you have Nancy Pelosi, who agreed with what he said, which puts her into real jeopardy.
Reports of an active shooter locking down Jackson State University in Mississippi. The lockdown was soon lifted as school officials said there was no longer a threat. However, the Jackson Police Department is investigating a shooting on campus earlier in the day that injured one man this morning. And Sony Music Entertainment has signed an agreement to be the exclusive North American purveyor of Beatle T-shirts and other memorabilia. Terms of the deal not disclosed, but it comes as Sony is working very hard to expand its presence in the growing music merchandising market. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Morgan, I'll send it back downtown to you.
We certainly know how lucrative the publishing has been for those Beatles songs, so it's definitely one to watch. Sue Herrera, thank you.
You got it.
Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for the second installment of the Market Dashboard. Mike.
Morgan, it has been something of a lost decade for global stock pickers. This is a chart that's been making the rounds today, and I think some non-U.S. Fundamental stock pickers have been dabbing their eyes as they take a look at it. It shows you the percentage of stocks over a 1 or 2 year holding period around the world, 16,000 stocks. What percentage of them have beaten the S&P 500 over that horizon? And what you see right here from 2009 on, fewer than half for sure. And recently, it's really plunged down into the 20% area. Have a little bit of a comeback for the 1 year holding period, but a clear minority of stocks outperforming the S&P. It was very similar, by the way, to the late 90s when you also had a growth-driven U.S.-centric global equity markets that was pretty much ended with a kind of crash of the tech bubble. This is when you outperform if you're a global stock picker. When value is leading, when basically the indexes are underperforming the average stock, which is the case here, and you had an emerging markets, credit, and commodities bubble that was lifting world markets well ahead of what the U.S. did. So are we heading in for another kind of regime shift here, a shift higher? It's very much unclear. But what's interesting is you see these big, sharp rebounds. That's after a big global sell-off. So that happened in the fourth quarter of last year and after the 2011 kind of downturn as well. So kind of sobering, but really quick snapshot of a 10-year look at U.S. versus the rest of the world stock markets right here. And it shows you the same picture in a different way. This is everything but the U.S., and that's the U.S. over a decade here, guys.
Mike, thank you very much for that stock differential and performance there. We've got 28 minutes left of the session. We are still higher, but just slipping a little bit. We're only up 0.7% now on the S&P and the Dow. Coming up, we've got your last chance trade. We've had a tease of which sector it's in already.
We have. And also up next, Amazon about to break into the big leagues. We're going to discuss a new report that says Amazon could be on the verge of inking a streaming deal with the Yankees. And as we head to break, here's a check on bonds. Treasury yields moving higher today following yesterday's big plunge. The 10-year currently yielding around 1.77%. Closing bell, we'll be right back.
So
The Bond Report.
Ho, ho, ho! Want to make Santa's job a whole lot easier this year? TuneIn Premium is the gift your loved ones can enjoy all year long. Featuring commercial-free news from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and CNBC, plus music, podcasts, and live sports. TuneIn Premium brings the best audio to you. Forget the stocking. and stuff their phone with the Everything Audio app. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Some days life can get in the way of catching up on the news that moves your world. TuneIn is here to help. With live 24/7 coverage from CNN wherever you go on the TuneIn app, you can always find a slice of your schedule, however long, to check in on the biggest stories of the day.
Hell hath no fury. The president's counselor went on a rampage on a taped phone call with Washington Examiner reporter.
Search CNN on TuneIn to get the live news when it matters most.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
The
it.
sideline, the Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
block.
NBA today to start listening.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, the actor Billy Porter talks about the hard years before the acclaim.
I had just gone through way too many almosts because I was too gay or too black or not urban enough. Like, oh, you're just so special. And it's like you hear that so often. It's like special doesn't pay the bills.
Listen to this episode of the New Yorker Radio Hour on TuneIn today.
Welcome back. English Premier League soccer kicking off on Amazon Prime this week. And now Amazon reportedly making another major push into sports streaming. Julia Boston has the details. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Will. Well, that's right. Amazon's Premier League coverage kicked off last night with 2 matches streamed simultaneously for Prime members. It was part of a deal Amazon inked last year to stream 20 soccer matches before the end of this month. Now, it's part of Amazon's broader investment in live sports. Sources tell us that the Yankees are working on a distribution deal with all of their partners, which includes Amazon, Blackstone, and Sinclair, which together brought an 80% stake in the Yankees' Yes cable network. The New York Post reporting that Yes is considering streaming a limited number of Yankees games, possibly on Amazon Prime, for $100 a year. No comment yet from Amazon or the Yankees on this report, but it comes as MLB ratings decline. So, guys, they're trying to figure out how to reach all those cord cutters.
Julia, I think it's so interesting. On the UK side of this, there was quite a lot of complaints yesterday that it was glitchy coverage, although I think that's more of a damning statement on the state of UK broadband than Amazon's service itself. But tonight's a bigger test for them because they have 6 games streaming as we speak and 2 further games tomorrow. But it shows that entering into this space is perhaps a little harder than some think, but also their commitment to live sports rights overall.
Absolutely. I mean, Will, live streaming is always challenging. It's definitely harder to do live rather than on-demand streaming. And the thing about soccer or football, as you call it, is that this is such a popular league. People want to stream this all over the world. And it's possible that they just have such a massive audience for this that they're still figuring out some of the technicalities. But you're right. It also could be that the issues are on the broadband side. People may not be accustomed to streaming a whole soccer game. This might be more than they're used to in terms of testing out the strength of their broadband. But this is a huge market in terms of soccer. And it definitely seems like we're going to continue to see Amazon push further and further into sports rights. Remember, they already have those NFL Thursday night games.
Right. Julia, thank you. Of course, they only have the rights in the UK for this round of games, not here. Our colleagues at NBC have that.
Yeah. I know my husband watches a lot of those soccer games on ESPN Plus, too.
But that would be European soccer.
Well, yeah.
But either way, right now, he and everyone is watching CNBC.
Yes. All right. We have a market flash on a possible deal in the luxury space. Seema Modi has those details for us. Hey, Seema.
Hi, Morgan. Luxury conglomerate Kering, the parent of Gucci, is said to be holding talks on a possible deal to acquire Moncler, based in Italy, which is best known for its winter coat. That's according to Bloomberg. Stocks are not trading at the moment, given that they trade in Europe, but Canada Goose, which also makes high-end winter coats, is rallying on this report, up about 3.5%. Wilfred, we've of course seen consolidation in the luxury retail space. Just 2 weeks ago, LVMH acquiring Tiffany's for $16.2 billion. This will likely be seen as an attempt by Kering to really rival LVMH. Back to you.
Seema, thank you very much for that. Canada Goose up 3.7% on news of that rival potential merger. We've got 21 minutes left in the session. Here's where we stand, up 0.75% on the S&P, recovering a lot of yesterday's declines. In fact, every single sector on the S&P is higher. Up next, we've got your last chance trade featuring Josh's pick in the energy sector.
Morning, everyone.
Feeling sleepy. On the bus home. Feet sore from dancing. Just me and Della. All quiet now. Peaceful. Our stop. Step out into the silence. Just our footsteps. Every shutter down. Traffic lights directing no one. Familiar glow. Step into the warmth. Big Mac and fries.
Over 700 McDonald's open 24 hours. We are awake.
Bah humbug. Even Scrooge appreciates the value of TuneIn Premium. Give the gift of endless audio to your friends and family. Ho, ho, ho. Search Premium to upgrade today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
It's College Football Conference Championship weekend, and TuneIn is your home to hear all the champions crowned. This Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the SEC Championship. The undefeated LSU Tigers, led by the Heisman frontrunner quarterback Joe Burrow, look to cap their perfect regular season. However, it won't be easy as their opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, will be hungry to pull off the upset and earn their ticket to the College Football Playoff. Catch all the action on TuneIn. Search college football to find your game.
We can't make traffic move faster during rush hour. But we can help you catch up on the news with TuneIn. With live around-the-clock news from MSNBC.
In the UK, they're significantly worse. When the president gets up to the podium...
CNBC and Fox News Talk.
The Fox News poll sizing up the race for 2020 found that each of the 5 top Democrats...
You can use your stop and go for good by staying in touch with the world. Search news to hear what's happening now.
Hey. Can't watch the big NBA game because your life's just too busy? I've got some news for you. TuneIn Premium is the answer to all your problems. Hear every home and away game live or on demand everywhere you go. Just search NBA to listen.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
18 minutes left to go. Major averages are higher. Josh, what's your last chance trade?
So I mentioned earlier, some of the oil charts look better than others. I want to show you the one I like the best. This is Halliburton, HAL. You should be looking at a one-year chart any moment. Let's focus in on that $22 level. That was support throughout the spring and most of the summer. And then in late June, it broke below. We had a retest in September. It failed. 22 had become resistance. We are right back at challenging that level again. If she breaks through, and I'm willing to bet that she does, this will be as clean a breakout as you're going to get in the oil space. It's one of the few charts that looks this good to me. What I would do is I would trail it with a stop. I would start off with a stop just below 20. You're risking 7%. This was a $60 stock 2 years ago. So I think there's room to the upside to justify the potential risk, and you'll be out of this really quick if you're wrong. So I like this on the breakout.
You mentioned earlier you look through a lot of other options in the energy sector. This is the one that really stands out for you.
Yeah, and look, it's a 15 multiple, which is not the cheapest of the cheap, but it's cheap enough, certainly cheaper than the S&P, and a 3.5% dividend yield. So even if it just marks time here in the low 20s, you're still getting paid while you wait. So from a risk-reward standpoint, if you're looking to take a shot on an oil stock that's been absolutely slaughtered and could turn higher as tax law selling abates, which is any minute now, this would be my play. I think above 22, there are very few sellers.
Okay, Josh, thanks for that one. We've got 16 minutes left of the session. At the moment, we are higher by 180 points on the Dow. Up next, we're going to go inside the market zone for uninterrupted coverage of the final minutes of trade.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Bah humbug. Even Scrooge appreciates the value of TuneIn Premium. Give the gift of endless audio to your friends and family. Ho, ho, ho. Search Premium to upgrade today.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from 1 minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
The swagger of a perfect dunk. The rush of a three made from all the way downtown. The adrenaline surge of great defense. Can you feel the goosebumps yet? There's nothing like live NBA and nothing like listening live on TuneIn.
Giannis down the lane of the rim, throwing right corner three. Another
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season, so you can be there when it matters most. Never miss the action as it happens. Hear the ball you love. Hear it live on TuneIn. Search NBA today to start listening.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Cutting for the end. Scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
On his podcast, The Pitch, Josh Muccio follows real entrepreneurs as they pitch to real investors for real money.
So I launched Sun and Soul Foods with a mission of making simple whole food eating more accessible to people living a really busy on-the-go lifestyle. So I'm here today raising $600,000 so I can make this world a healthier place, one bite at a time.
Very cool.
Yeah, amazing. So I'll hand out some snacks.
Wonderful. On a new pod club, the host shares some of the podcasts he really loves. Go to podcast on TuneIn to check out The Pitch to see Josh's pod club picks.
Welcome back. We've got a news alert. It's on the New York Mets. Leslie Picker's got it for us. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, Will. Yes, this is a press release from the New York Mets saying that the Sterling Partners and Steve Cohen, the well-known hedge fund manager, are negotiating an agreement that would increase Steve Cohen's stake in the New York Mets. They don't specify how big that stake would be, but Bloomberg headlines from just a short while ago say that they're in talks to have Cohen's stake go up to about 80% of the team. Now, back in April, Forbes calculated the value of the New York Mets at $2.3 billion. That's the sixth biggest MLB franchise. And the press release does go on to say that Steve Cohen will continue as CEO and president of Point72 Asset Management, the hedge fund by which he manages, and this stake would be run through his family office, Cohen Private Ventures. Back over to you.
Hear me out, though. The Knicks. I'm just saying.
Well, that's one buyer likely for the Knicks who's off the table.
Leslie, thank you. We've got 12 minutes left, 11 minutes left now. We're going to head inside the market zone. Commercial-free coverage of all of the action as we head into the close.
CNBC senior markets commentator Mike Santoli is here to break down these crucial moments of the trading day. And today, we've got Ritholtz Wealth Management CEO Josh Brown here as well. United Airlines announcing plans to replace aging Boeing planes with new jets from Airbus. And Phil LeBeau has the details. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Morgan, this is a big order and a big win for Airbus, and it doesn't look good for Boeing. This is an example of what's going on when you can't bring the planes to market that you expected to due to everything that's being focused on the 737 MAX. Here's the order that United announced late yesterday, and it is a significant one. 50 A321 XLR. Those are long-range versions of the A321. Those are going to be delivered starting in 2024. United will use them to replace the 757 on routes between Newark and D.C. and Europe, really connecting destinations that are farther apart, and this will open up a number of new markets over in Europe. Now, these planes, as I mentioned, will be replacing Boeing 757s. And you might be saying to yourself, well, why didn't they order Boeings to replace those 757s? Because Boeing doesn't have one. Boeing was expected to announce what they called an NMA, or that plane that's not yet named for the middle of the market that would replace the 757. That was widely expected to happen earlier this year, but clearly they've been focusing on other things, like getting the 737 MAX up and running. As a result, you see the difference here, guys. And I hear this all the time from people. Well, why wouldn't somebody order, or why shouldn't people say, hey, stick with Boeing? The stock really hasn't sold off as much as you would expect. That's the difference there. Look at the backlog in orders this year. 721 orders for commercial planes this year for Airbus. Guess what the total is for Boeing? Negative 95. So that tells you everything right there, guys, and why those two stocks have split.
Yeah, Phil, really some key stats right there. In terms of Boeing, though, actually announcing a replacement for those 757s, is that completely off the table, or is that just sort of seen as shelved, given everything that's going on in the 737
It is seen as shelved. Morgan, it is seen as shelved, and when you talk with Boeing executives publicly, they'll say, well, look, we're still working on it. We're still assessing the market. The bottom line is this: American, United, Frontier, JetBlue, about 340 planes altogether have been ordered by those airlines as well as others around the world. They need this middle of the market plane. It's not a huge segment, but they need it, and they're not going to wait for Boeing. That's why they are going with Airbus.
Is this single aisle, Phil, or two?
Yeah, it's a single aisle, but it's extra long range. So what you're looking at here is it's going to be in that 757 target market right there. And really, there's no good fit with what's left at Boeing to replace that 757. There are some that you can kind of work into some of those routes, but not a perfect fit.
Phil LeBeau, as always, thanks so much. Now, Uber may be making moves to take on Amazon CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, speaking at the Economic Club in New York earlier today, and he revealed his plans to expand Uber's food delivery service, Uber Eats.
If you think about a restaurant is a local box that has 30 SKUs that where the inventory never runs out typically. We can extend, and we are getting stuff from that box to you within 30 minutes every single time. We're getting that. We're really nailing that every single time, predictability. You can imagine that we can extend that model to essentially every single local retailer here, so that anything you want in your city, we can deliver to you, hopefully in under 30 minutes.
Interesting here, because we all know the price pressures, the profitability pressures in food delivery, though this could give you an argument, though it pushes back when they'll be profitable, for the broader economies of scale that Uber might be able to deliver down the line. Nonetheless, they're taking on a Goliath.
But they're going after the parts of Amazon's business that doesn't really benefit much from economies of scale. You're delivering every piece discreetly. Yeah. It's the part that for Amazon is cost. So I just don't know if winning is really winning, even if you do make progress here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's the last mile. And we get those comments, Josh, as Postmates is cutting dozens of jobs and shutting down their Mexico City office. I mean, is there ever a point in time at which food delivery becomes profitable?
It's even if it became profitable, it's not like a highly profitable endeavor. It's like a supermarket margin. It's nothing that anyone else wants. And then the bigger question is, are these Uber employees or are they not? And that is not going to be a uniform answer across every municipality and city and state in this country. There are going to be states that say, absolutely not. If you have somebody that spends 8 to 10 hours of their day carrying out tasks for you, guess what? You own them, which means payroll tax collecting, Social Security tax, health insurance in some cases. So that is still up in the air. I don't think there's going to be an answer to that anytime soon. That is a cloud that will sit over this stock and lift for a very, very long time.
I think super long-term, bigger picture, is there something that can be created that's like Uber Prime, where essentially you have a subscription to this very wide range of services? And again, is that going to be profitable even if it existed?
Yeah, one to watch. Shares of Alphabet, meantime, trading higher today after CEO Larry Page announced he will step down from his position. And Google CEO Sundar Pichai will take over as CEO of the parent company, Alphabet, in addition to remaining on as CEO of Google. Co-founder Sergey Brin will also step down as president of Alphabet. Josh?
I own it, and I'm not going to say like I'm happy with the news. To me, it's sort of neutral.
Why?
Well, because I always thought of Alphabet as like this collection of potential moonshots, and maybe it's Waymo, or maybe it's drone delivery, or who knows what the next mega business that will come out of. But Sundar, for all of his talents, is a search guy. So is this Google basically turning back inward and saying, you know what? We're really an advertising business. It's 90% of our revenue. We're a search business, and that's the future. Like, is that what this represents? If so, that's not so exciting. However, it's still a great business.
Oh, it might be exciting to people who are invested in it and think that the other stuff is more distraction. And
that's exactly what I think. Like, there are people that own this and say, why can't you just do search and advertising? Why are you building underwater helicopters? Like, nobody wants that. And why are you spending the way that you're spending on these other bets? So it depends on what kind of shareholder, but clearly the market likes it more than they dislike it. So at least for now.
Investors hoping Slack's latest results can help turn around its recent slide. Deirdre Bosa has a preview of that release coming after the close.
Hey, well, the Slack versus Teams rivalry has been in full swing over the past quarter, so investors, they're going to want to know what Slack is doing in that increasingly competitive environment. Just a few weeks ago, Microsoft said Teams reached 20 million daily active users. That's a 50% jump in just 4 months. The latest number we have from Slack is 12 million DAUs, and that's from October. Now, even with the plunge since its direct listing, Slack shares are still expensive relative to other software as a service companies. The Street expecting a loss of 8 cents per share on revenue of $156 million. Guys?
Dee, thanks so much. Josh, we've got some numbers recently. Microsoft, 20 million daily active users. Is that comparable directly to Slack's 12 million daily average users?
No. Microsoft is playing a little bit of a sleight of hand here, and I understand why they're doing it. Teams is built in and bundled with 365. It's the same as when you open your computer, you go on Safari or you go on Chrome, and you happen to have logged into Facebook at some point. They'll say you're an active user. Are you really an active user? And in fact, 70% of the top 50 customers at Slack are also using Office 365. So that shows that even the Microsoft users, and again, Slack has 65 of the Fortune 100 companies. Even hardcore Microsoft using corporations also have Slack, which shows a preference, I think, for the Slack service. So I'm not telling you this will be a great earnings report. They scared people, in the last report, so we'll see. But I don't think that Microsoft is hurting Slack at all.
Another name reporting after the bell, RH, and Meg Terrell has a preview of that for us. Hey, Meg.
Hey, Morgan. Well, investors have been bullish on RH, sending the shares of the luxury furniture retailer up more than 45% in the last 3 months. Investors including Berkshire Hathaway, which reported a 6.5% stake last month. Despite concerns about luxury consumer spending, Wedbush says signs of fatigue in that sector moderated in the third quarter. Now, the company has already boosted its 2019 outlook 3 times this year, playing down the impact of higher China tariffs. And in doing so, RH has shown it has pricing power. We'll be watching after the bell in just a few minutes to see if that momentum continues. Guys, back over to you.
All right, Meg, thank you. 2 minutes left to go. Let's send it over to Rick Santelli for a check on bonds. Rick.
You know, if you look at today, 67,000 on ADP, the second worst number in 9 years, or the third lowest in our non-manufacturing ISM number in over 3 years. But look at an intraday of 10, certainly who made the low right after ADP, but it moved higher, and it continued to firm. We're on the upper end of the range. We've grabbed back about half of yesterday's 11 basis point drop. If we look at a 1 month chart of high yield, the spreads are widening a bit, but if you look at a year to date, it's still very well behaved. Bertha, good day in the NASDAQ, stacked right on top of yesterday.
Yeah, we are seeing a bounce back with Tech Expedia leading the way after the CEO and CFO resigned over strategic differences. The board did authorize a 20 million share buyback. That's helping to boost the shares today. On the other end, the worst performer in the NASDAQ 100, Workday, offering some fairly cautious guidance for some on the street, and software today is a little bit soft. But I really wanted to take a look at Peloton. Down over the last 2 days, about 11% from an all-time high on Monday of $37 a share. But take a look at what's happened here. This stock has been on a tear over the last month since it reported earnings with a 68% short interest. Those shorts have gotten squeezed. Over to Bob.
And Bertha, fairly broad advance today, better than 2-to-1 advancing to declining stocks. And yet defensive names did really well today. I know a lot of people want to talk about those big cyclical names. Food stocks had a terrific day. Campbell's had excellent numbers. We've got a new 52-week high on Campbell's today. Hormel, Kellogg's, McCormick, some of the other food stocks. One of the few groups at 52-week highs today. And healthcare's been doing well recently, and I'm not just talking about biotech. So Humana affirmed their guidance earlier this week. That's been on a tear. Look at that stock. That's when the earnings came out about 1 month ago. Merck, also 52-week high. There's the closing bell. We did fade a little bit going into the close. Dow gave up about 50 points in the last hour, closing up 146 points.
To the closing bell, everyone. I'm Wilfred Frost.
And I'm Morgan Brennan, in for Sarah Eisen, along with Mike Santoli, CNBC's senior markets commentator.
Let's check in on where we finished higher, albeit with a little bit of slippage into the close. The S&P was up 0.65%, the Dow up 0.55%, as was the NASDAQ. Materials just fell into the red at the close, but 10 out of 11 S&P sectors were higher, led by energy, which was up a healthy 1.6%.
Major averages snapping 3-day losing streaks with these gains today as well. We're also waiting quarterly results from Slack and RH, and we will bring you those numbers as soon as they are released. Joining us to talk about the market day, Josh Brown, CEO of Ritholtz Wealth Management, still with us, along with Mark Lucchini, Chief Investment Strategist at Janney Montgomery Scott. Good afternoon to you both. Mike Santoli, to you first. We got some maybe softer than expected data today, but trade seems to be driving the action.
Yeah, trade, and I do think this estimation that basically what we saw was a bit of a shakeout over a couple days. The S&P closed on on Monday at 31.13. And we closed at 31.13 today. So essentially, we undid yesterday's drop, maybe almost too cutely to the dime. But I do think it basically tells you that overbought market, pulling back, resetting sentiment a little bit. Yes, we still have suspense about the tariffs on the 15th and all the rest of it. But I think the bond market did not panic on those soft economic numbers. Yields did not extend their decline from yesterday. They actually picked up a bit. That gave the stock market permission to relax a little bit.
Mark, do you think the key focus for the market in the short term is whatever headline we're getting out on trade?
I think it's trade on, trade off every day, all day. And that's what the market's oscillations are really all about. I mean, we've been saying now for months on end that the market's been really held hostage to these trade negotiations. And only in the last couple of months, with the relief of no further escalation seemingly in sight, that led to the last 100, 150 points on the S&P 500. Obviously, recent gains have been digested here, and this pullback over the last couple of days is a reflection of the concern that perhaps that enthusiasm needs to be taken back a little bit. But once again, it was restored today. So hopefully, in our base case remains that it will go forward, at least in terms of a phase one agreement. That should be enough to allow the market to continue to advance.
Josh, the fact that the two U.S. equity indexes that did the best today were the Russell 2000 and the transportation average. What can we glean from that?
Well, I think they were two of the hardest hit. Is probably it's not more complicated than that.
Okay.
But transports are interesting. They're still in the middle of this range. They really haven't looked good since February. I don't know that this is really a story of the economy, though. I think it's a story of the sectors that are in the transportation index having their own issues. So I try not to react to. Look at that chart. I mean, it looks more like an oscillator than an index. It's in a very well-defined channel. Hasn't been able to break out to either the upside or the downside. It's people that look at that and say, wait, it's not confirming the Dow Industrials. Don't worry about that. That's from the 1970s. companies. I treat it a little bit more as a sideshow.
Mike, what do you make of the performance of the FANG stocks today?
Yeah, there were weeks, clearly kind of rotation out of them. Amazon, to me, is conspicuous that it doesn't really get a lot of push behind it at all. It's still well below its highs. So to me, it was much more about that was not the place to focus today. You had industrials up. You had a lot of the beneficiaries of higher yields moving higher, and no money interested in tacking on a little bit. Although Google, of course, after the news of the founder stepping back, did tack on almost 2%. That was the exception, in fact.
Mark, what do you like in this market right now?
Well, I like financials, speaking of the sector that was just mentioned, and industrials. In fact, we moved to a cyclical overweight in both of those sectors in the last couple of months as a beneficiary of two things, a re-steepening of the yield curve, and two, some tentative signs that continue to emerge in a positive fashion that developments overseas are going in the right direction, finally, through the Caxton and Chinese surveys of manufacturing and services PMIs to now starting to spill over into other countries around the world that collectively I think is still embryonic, but nonetheless I think are indicative of a pattern of better growth that's starting to develop abroad, which is helping those multinationals.
Josh, definitely some stepping in and buying at the financials today.
Yeah, look at the candle on JP Morgan. How quickly that stock was bought up, like everything it gave out. And when you see that in one of the biggest, most important leading stocks in a sector, you can't dismiss it. The accumulation was so hard and fast in this name, and you're seeing echoes of that in the big leading stocks of almost every sector. I can rattle off all 11 S&P sectors, the big stock that mattered most, and how quickly that candle was fixed from the technical damage yesterday. So I think it's a positive sign. I continue to look at names like JP Morgan, look at names like Nike and McDonald's and Disney. These are the stocks that got it done for you this year. They continue to, even after a tough day, and I think that's noteworthy.
Mike, the fact that up until a couple days ago, I mean, we weren't seeing really significant swings in the markets. Volatility, is it back? Is it here to stay?
It's not clear to me that we're on an uptrend in volatility, but I do think you have these very long periods, as we did, when the market just keeps ticking higher quietly, gets well above its trend, doesn't have many 1% moves, and then once you break that pattern, yeah, you do have a little bit of jostling around. So for now, I think you have to be on guard for it. I think a lot of people looked at today's action and basically say, wow, that's a resilient market right there. It just kind of undid yesterday's drop. Others will say it stopped exactly where you'd want to short it if, in fact, you think that that we have some more to go. So I don't think we've determined anything today, but wouldn't be surprising. First half of December often does have a little bit of choppiness before you get a year-end lift.
Now, despite closing high today, the S&P will remain under pressure until the second quarter of 2020. That's according to a new report by UBS. To help investors hedge against market uncertainty, UBS releasing a list of its buy-rated stocks it calls the fastest sustainable dividend growers. Citi, Eli Lilly, and Baxter are among the stocks UBS says will have the fastest dividend growth, while the highest yielding names include Molson Coors, American Eagle, and Restaurant Brands. Mike, I guess for any kind of shift into dividend pay, you need that sustainable growth in the dividend for it not to be a value trap, as it were. Interesting, because some of these stocks, like Citi, perhaps the biggest factor is just management decision of how much they're going to switch out of buybacks and into dividends, as opposed to really the fundamentals of the company.
It's very true, and and the business keeps just kicking off capital they can't deploy elsewhere, and clearly dividends will have a tailwind. History does show that dividend growth is a pretty reliable outperformance strategy over very long spans of time, as opposed to just buying the highest yielders. I also think this shows you that the client base of Wall Street constantly craves income ideas.
Yeah, another name, Mark, that was in this report is Huntington Ingalls Industries, which is largest military shipbuilder in the country. As well, we actually just had the CEO on CNBC yesterday. Defense names, or I guess even the industrials more broadly. Is there stuff that you like there, especially when we are having a conversation about dividend payers, reliable dividend payers?
Morgan, all of the above. I mentioned earlier that we like industrials. As a sub-industry of the industrial sector, defense looks particularly interesting. I mean, obviously, defense budgets are expanding both here in the United States and by encouragement, according to President Trump, perhaps in NATO and elsewhere around the world. And as a consequence of that, I think that is a long-term runway associated with that. Unfortunately, many of the names are pretty rich from a valuation standpoint, the classic defenses like Lockheed and so on, and oftentimes pay little or no dividends. So that is an option as an alternative to kind of have your cake and eat it too. So I like it for that reason.
Let me throw out on that list. They had Bank of New York Mellon. And this is to me, this is a name that we almost never talk about. Gigantic bank, $30 trillion in assets. But the crown jewel is Pershing. And lost in the shuffle of the Schwab TD merger news is the fact that Pershing now becomes the only RIA custodian that's not going to be competing with its clients. It is the only one not doing a direct-to-consumer. And I think that you're going to see that side of Bank of New York Mellon get played out much more. The custody business is a great business. You make money on trades. You make money on lending. You make money on stock loan. A lot of ways to get paid for Bank of New York Mellon through that subsidiary. And I think that subsidiary is going to be on fire as so much money, trillions of dollars, become up for grabs in the wealth management market. So 2.5% yield on this name. It's about a 12 multiple, much cheaper than most of the names on there because it's a bank. I think
it's not really a bank, is it? It's an asset management company and a custodian.
Institutional asset management.
It's an asset
custody.
Yeah.
But look,
it's a financial utility, really. Right. I mean, it's like State Street. They used to be really high multiple businesses. They traded at a premium, but low yields don't help them at all.
Yes.
And they've had some, execution.
And to the share price performance, I get your point in terms of its relative.
Done nothing.
Done nothing. And actually, Charlie Scharf, relative to State Street's share price performance since he took over, was better, but it wasn't a great performance. And it kind of is glossed over when terms of when he took the Wells Fargo's job as, he's had great time.
Seems as if the job wasn't perhaps complete.
Right.
Before he left.
New CEO, new attitude at a lot of the business divisions. I think it's worth keeping an eye on it. And if you like cheap stocks that are growing dividends, that's on this UBS list. I think it's a worthy name.
All right, gents, thanks so much for joining us. Mark Luschini for joining us. Josh is going to stick around because we've got Slack.
I'm never leaving.
Coming out, and hopefully Slack will deliver for him because we know Josh is a shareholder. Up next, Slack shares been slumping since its IPO in June. Find out if its latest quarterly results can jumpstart the stock. I basically said the same thing twice. We're back in 90 seconds.
Your holiday travels just got a lot better with a subscription to TuneIn Premium. With sports, music, news, and podcasts for the whole family. It's the gift that will really move them. Search Premium to upgrade today.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and tune in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Welcome back. Let's get over to Mike for the third installment of today's dashboard. Mike.
Well, take a look at valuation here. We're kind of looking for perhaps what the correct frontier is for the level of the price earnings multiple for the S&P 500. This is an incredibly simplistic way of looking at valuation, but it does show you over the last 10 years, we have nudged up against the highs. We look at this quite a bit here. We always point out we're at about 18, a little under 18 right now on a forward basis. This right here was when the market was anticipating the tax cut windfall that the analysts had not yet put into the numbers. So we're essentially at the top. I would say the trailing multiple is about 20. Now, when bull markets get to 20 times trailing earnings for the first time, they actually tend not to fall apart right away. It's kind of how it goes late in the game, but maybe, in fact, you have to mute your longer-term return expectations. Here's a chart that shows the GAAP earnings growth, or lack of growth, if you want, for the S&P 500 on a quarterly basis, year-over-year earnings growth. We always look at operating. That PE multiple I showed you was operating. It's adjusted. It backs out all the write-downs. And what you see here actually is in the latest look, we're down 6% year-over-year in GAAP, bottom line, old-fashioned accounting-based earnings. Now, we've done this before, right? We did that in 2011-12 and then 2015-2016. So it doesn't mean it's all over, but it does show you there's a margin in there between what we report as slight earnings growth and the bottom line. Again, late in the bull market, they start to diverge a little bit, but this is something to watch too. As the Wall Street Journal today reported that 1/3 of the S&P has had negative year-over-year earnings performance in the last quarter, last year.
And Mike, I guess also we always think about these things relative to other asset classes. Bond yields remain low. The other point I'd also point out is that we've seen a pickup in valuation multiples for the likes of European equities as well. Yes, the S&P's gotten a little, has always been richer than Europe in the last decade, but actually they both picked up together. So the kind of TINA argument's not being stretched so badly.
And the overall valuation in aggregate is also driven by the very, very large stocks. I think I looked earlier this week, and a third of the index is under 15 times earnings in the S&P, so it's pretty wide divergence right now.
All right. I see we're going with like a hide-and-seek theme here. With your charts?
Yeah, kind of looking for things, losing things, you know.
Up next, Slack results set to hit the tape any minute. Instant analysis to those numbers coming ahead. And later, an exodus at Expedia. We'll speak with the management expert, Jeff Sonnenfeld, about the big changes at the company and Chairman Barry Diller's strategy.
And as we head out, let's have a check on how stocks closed today. Higher by about 0.5% for the Dow, a little bit more for the Nasdaq and the S&P.
Christmas, a time for sharing gifts and laughter, and photos and videos. Make the most of it with a SIM-only deal packed with data from Tesco Mobile. Like a 10-gig SIM for just £13 a month. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile today. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 29th of December. 12-month contract and unlocked 4G-enabled phone required. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
At Asda this Christmas, treat them to a gift or two, or three, with 3 for 2 on a wide range of beauty and toiletry gift sets from Dove, Lynx, Bayliss and Harding and many more. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Individual prices £1 to £20. Cheapest item free.
Ho, ho, ho! Want to make Santa's job a whole lot easier this year? Tune In Premium is the gift your loved ones can enjoy all year long. Featuring commercial-free news from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and CNBC, plus music, podcasts, and live sports. Tune In Premium brings the best audio to you. Forget the stocking. And stuff their phone with the Everything Audio app. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Slack numbers are out. Deirdre Bosa's got them for us. Hi, Dee.
Hey, Will. Slack reporting loss of 2 cents per share on revenue of $168.7 million. That is a beat on both the top and the bottom lines. And a loss of 8 cents per share on revenue of $156 million was expected. Also, Slack is announcing a change to its board of directors. It is appointing Michael McNamara to the board and announcing that Chamath Palihapitiya is stepping down. Shares are falling 2.5% in the after hours. They were down as much as 4.5%, so cutting those losses a little bit. In terms of the forecast, revenue and loss outlook for the fourth quarter is in line with expectations. The call kicks off at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're hoping to hear a little bit more about these board changes, the reason behind it. Also looking for any updates, as I mentioned, on its daily active users as it competes in this environment with Microsoft Teams. Guys, back to you.
Josh, you're a shareholder. Your initial reaction?
The board change makes sense. I think Chamath is great, but I think he makes more sense when a company is earlier stage and more venture backed than public market backed, and that's clearly not the case anymore. So I'm fine with that. Shout out to Chamath. This is a company that's expected to see revenue grow 51% in the next year and then 38% in the following year. That's the consensus. Guidance is going to be critical. The other thing people are going to be looking at, last quarter when they reported, paid customers jumped 40%. They're going to have to put up a big number in paid customers. There is no question that the service is wildly popular and engagement is higher than any competing services. The big question is how many freemium users actually make the leap and start paying at an enterprise level. And so I think those are the things that the street's going to want to see. And hopefully they deliver on those metrics. I haven't seen anything yet, so I can't even speak to it.
Yeah, let's bring in Morningstar analyst Dan Romanoff for more on these results as well. Dan, shares are down 4% right now after hours. Why? If the numbers came in line, why?
So hi, and thanks for having me. And I think that you've got a high growth stock here, right? So it's not really okay to just sort of hit numbers. You have to come in and deliver better than that. You have to be clean, and you have to have a good outlook, and all of a sudden you're making a board change here, which again I haven't really seen what's going on exactly, so I'm going to want to hear about that on the call, but that could be one reason. That's not a perfectly clean result.
Dan, looking at some of your past commentary, you felt that management set expectations too high in the past, but this time around they've beaten what consensus estimates were for the quarter. So you're a little surprised to see the stock slip with that all in mind?
They beat last quarter too, let's be clear. It was guidance the street didn't like.
Guidance didn't, fair point. But Dan, what's your take?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think they actually beat. They had a nice quarter in terms of metrics and results last quarter. This quarter sounds like it's good as well. So I think the street wants to see, guidance being bumped up, and guiding in line is perhaps not what they're looking for.
All right.
Josh, what are the key things you look out for in the year ahead here? Is it all about the headlines that Microsoft's currently managing to get, and that's distracting people from Slack, or not?
I think that's a factor, but Dan nails it. If you're going to come public and sell 20 times revenue or sell 18 times enterprise value, well, then you got to put up huge growth numbers, and that is not what they have been doing. They've been meeting the number. They've been gently massaging guidance up or down. That's not gonna work. Now, you could argue it was a $38.50 stock when they came public, and now it's $20. So you could argue some of the froth of those expectations have already come out. That's what I would argue. But I don't think the stock can bottom until they can demonstrate that things are back on the upswing. And we'll see what they have to say on the call. Again, I think the number's great. That's fine. I don't know if it's good enough for where the stock is right now, and guidance is going to be what determines where it opens tomorrow and what the analyst community does. As we've seen, they loved it at 38. They were okay with it at 30. They hated it at 22. That's what the sell side does. Let's see if they can get them back on their side.
Yeah, to that point, Mike, Slack IPO price was 26. It's trading at 21 now. It's down 30% over the last 3 months.
Yeah, the direct listing price, right?
Yeah, direct listing price.
So
You're
this
right.
is showing
Thank
that
you.
you list, you have a brand name, a pretty big market value, and mostly it's to get liquidity to the sellers. Now, I'm interested to see how it trades into a new calendar year. I don't think it's all about, kind of tax-motivated selling or anything like that, but this is the kind of thing that clearly had to find the correct hands to be in. Just being this kind of secular story and, hey, it's going to be on everybody's screen who has a job for a long period of time, that hasn't been enough to get the stock moving.
Dan and Josh, we'll leave the discussion there. Thanks very much for joining us. And tomorrow, don't miss Slack's CEO on Scorebox tomorrow at around 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't want to miss Mr. Butterfield break down those numbers. Still ahead, packing up and heading out. A major C-suite shakeup at Expedia. And now Barry Diller is the man in charge. Could this be the turnaround the stock has been waiting for? We'll discuss when we come back.
Doors till Christmas. You know it's not far off when the advent calendar goes up. At Asda, we've a great range to choose from, including Maltesers and Galaxy calendars for just £2 each. And our Asda Free-From advent calendar, just £2.50. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores subject to availability, 93 grams to 110 grams.
What better way to celebrate the holidays than with a subscription to TuneIn Premium? With a bottomless library of the world's best audio, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Search Premium to upgrade today. It's College Football Conference Championship weekend, and TuneIn is your home to hear all the champions crowned. This Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the SEC Championship. The undefeated LSU Tigers, led by the Heisman frontrunner quarterback Joe Burrow, look to cap their perfect regular season. However, it won't be easy as their opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, will be hungry to pull off the upset and earn their ticket to the college football playoff. Catch all the action on TuneIn. Search college football to find your game.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
On the goal line, scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Catch the latest news as it happens with MSNBC on TuneIn. From American politics to global events, when breaking news hits, you'll never miss a moment again. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to hear the latest.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. It is time now for a CNBC News Update with Sue Herrera. Hey, Sue.
Hello, Morgan. Hello, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. Bankrupt airbag maker Takata is recalling about 1.4 million driver's side inflators in the U.S. because they could explode. The recall covers certain BMW, VW, Honda, Toyota, and Mitsubishi vehicles made from 1995 to 2000. BMW is telling owners of its older 3 Series cars not to drive them. George Zimmerman is seeking some $100 million in damages from several defendants involved in the Trayvon Martin case, including Trayvon's parents. The lawsuit claiming civil conspiracy, malicious prosecution, and defamation. Zimmerman was found not guilty of killing Trayvon Martin in 2012. Former New York Met pitcher Zach Wheeler has agreed to a 5-year, $118 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies, according to multiple reports. Wheeler has won a total of 44 games in his major league career. And believe it or not, space beer is fast becoming the new frontier. Anheuser-Busch has been sending barley seeds to the International Space Station since 2017 in hopes of learning how to brew in microgravity. This to be the first beer on Mars. SpaceX's upcoming resupply mission will carry the next step in the brewery's equipment and experiment. That's right up your alley, Morgan.
I have been totally following this story. I'm glad that you shared it today.
Yes, it's a great story, right? I think it's fantastic.
What's the aim of this? Because it makes it tastier, or just
I think they're just seeing the fact that all of these private companies and public companies are in the space race, and eventually we will probably be living on another planet, and they want their foothold in it. That's
and you
my
know
read.
that we can't have life on a planet if there's no beer. I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Yeah.
There we
Totally.
go. So,
All right.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks. RH earnings are out. Meg Terrell has the numbers. Hey, Meg.
Hey, Morgan. It's a beat for RH in the third quarter. Earnings on an adjusted basis coming in a strong beat, $2.79 per share versus analyst average estimate of $2.23. Revenue just about in line, $677 million on an adjusted basis compared with $676 million is the estimate. Company's saying that it's raising its full year guidance for the fourth time this year, but our team points out that guidance basically just incorporates that beat for the third quarter. Additionally, in the press release, company making some commentary about China tariffs, saying that they don't expect the current tariffs to impair their ability to achieve their stated financial goals. They also say that they've been able to receive pricing accommodations from vendors, and they've implemented price increases where necessary with little to no impact on their business. That was something analysts were watching closely for RH. Shares, though, just about flat, slightly down after hours. Wolf, back to you.
Thanks so much, Meg. Mike, this one, great second half of the year for this stock already.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate the, exception that proves the rule construction, but they really are in terms of lots of physical retail and catalog retail. It's been an amazing run, obviously a massive short squeeze. They bought back almost half the company the last couple of years through leveraged buyback. So it's working right now. I just do think that it's pretty high stakes in terms of how the stock trades once we get the numbers for the holiday, I think.
Slipping down 0.5% in after-hours trade. C-suite shakeup at Expedia Group, the company's CEO and CFO, both resigning. In a statement, Expedia chairman Barry Diller said, in part, quote, ultimately, senior management and the board disagreed on strategy. The board disagreed with the near-term outlook as well as departing leadership's vision for growth, strongly believing the company can accelerate growth in 2020. That divergence necessitated a change in management. Let's bring in Jeff Sonnenfeld, CNBC contributor and Senior Associate Dean for Leadership Studies at Yale School of Management. Very good afternoon to you. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Wilf. How are you?
Very well indeed. So what's your take on this, and how rare is it in the sort of modern age to see such a sort of ruthless execution there without necessarily knowing what comes next?
Yeah, great twist of phrase. You're right. It is an execution. And how silly of me to say, hello, Wilf, how are you? We're both doing a lot better than all the turmoil in Techland. There's a lot of trouble in Techland. And this is an odd execution. Why did they need to fire these guys, sort of kill them at sunset like this, unless there was some gross incompetence or some gross misconduct, and nobody's alleging that here. But to drive the CEO and the CFO out at once is pretty strange, with no succession lined up, and to use as the explanation, well, we didn't like their strategy for one quarter. The board hadn't signed off on this. And meanwhile, the guy who was running most of the business had just been pushed out 2 months ago. It's hard to see what they're doing here. And as Barry Diller parachutes in here, and who am I to criticize a multi-billionaire? He's done very well. But if he knew what to do with this business, why did he sell it out of IAC? He held it for 3 years, and then they cast it out this way. I think they're lost. I really don't think they know what to do with this business. And And
So,
a
Jeff-
78-year-old is not incapable of figuring out new things. I think Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, President Trump. I think that Bernie Sanders, that they've got a lot to offer despite being late septenarians. But I really can't see what Barry Diller is going to be bringing to this business right now.
Who would bring something to the business? Who do you think could come in and replace the team that's just been ousted today?
Yeah, I think they should try to figure out how to consolidate these businesses. As well as I know you guys, I would ask you both, if I bet your lives on this, that you couldn't tell me right now when you would use Travelocity, when you would use Hotel.com, when you would use Cars.com or Orbitz or Trivago, one versus another. You couldn't. It's an alphabet soup. They're all stapled together. At least the CEO and CFO that were fired were trying to unify a tech platform, and maybe these brands need to be consolidated. And for that matter, I think almost anybody watching this show would swear that TripAdvisor is one of that pack, but in fact, they're a competitor. Who knows? There's way too much capacity in this space. They need to consolidate and sell this business to somebody, and Microsoft was smart to sell it years ago, and I guess smartest of all was, of course, was Khashoggi to get out of here and run over to Uber, where he's tanked the stock by 45%.
So Jeff, it sounds like you're pretty critical of this move by Mr. Diller.
Oh yeah,
exactly. How long should he stay in the executive role? Does he need to act very quickly to find someone else, or what's your view on that?
Well, I can't see that he's going to be moving out to Seattle to live there. They just moved their fancy headquarters from Bellevue to even fancier headquarters to the waterfront of Seattle downtown, and that's where everybody is. And in this age of virtual corporations, he still needs to be there, and I can't see he's going to want to be spending his time there. And he said that this is interim. He has a chairman, which is interim. They've elevated two people from the inside, which is interesting. And just when Morgan asked who should a successor be, it looks like they're lining up somebody as the CFO, who was just the chief strategy officer. If the strategy was so failed, why did they elevate this guy in? And another person they've given a president of business partnerships title to him before she was president of business solutions. Who the devil knows the difference between all that? So, yeah, I don't know. And I see the analysts are saying, oh, there's execution risk. Execution risk? That would be lucky, though. I mean, there's a vision. Sure, nobody's going to take any risks so they know who's in charge, but there's no vision there to execute.
So, Jeff, we got to get your thoughts on Sundar Pichai now becoming CEO of Alphabet, in addition to Google and Page and Brin stepping aside.
If it was anybody other than Sundar Pichai, I'd say he's falling into the greater fool trap. They're looking for somebody to scapegoat, somebody to blame. I think that Brin and Pichai, and Page are very honorable guys. They're brilliant guys. I'm friends with Larry Page. Who wouldn't be friends with somebody who's got $60 billion? But still, I think that all their space shot businesses, with perhaps
you're a mercenary, Jeff.
I can't see. I mean, they've got problems of antitrust issues, privacy issues. Of course, the digital advertising business is slowing for them. They are creating a great threat. For the last company we talked about is, of course, they're cutting into the SEO model that was Expedia's model. Yeah. Their travel business is doing well, but I worry about Sundar Pichai. He's very much loved. He's a smart engineer. He's got credibility. There's nobody on the planet better than him for the job. But I do think you got to worry about 46-year-old guys that have 13% of the company and yet control 53% of it, 32% ownership.
Yeah, and that's not going to go away. Jeff Sonnenfeld, great to get your thoughts today. Thanks for joining us.
Great, thanks. Great, bye-bye.
Up next, last-minute tax moves. The end of the year is quickly approaching, and there are a few key things you can do to help benefit your money in a big way. Closing Bell will be right back.
CNBC News up.
Bah humbug. Even Scrooge appreciates the value of TuneIn Premium. Give the gift of endless audio to your friends and family. Ho, ho, ho. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Running down the sideline.
It's College Football Conference Championship weekend, and TuneIn is your home to hear all the champions crowned. This Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the SEC Championship. The undefeated LSU Tigers, led by the Heisman frontrunner quarterback Joe Burrow, look to cap their perfect regular season. However, it won't be easy as their opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs, will be hungry to pull off the upset and earn their ticket to the college football playoff. Catch all the action on TuneIn. Search college football to find your game. Want TuneIn to remind you when the big NFL game is about to get underway? Be sure notifications are allowed on your phone and search NFL on the TuneIn app. Find the game you want to hear under events and tap Notify Me. We'll let you know exactly when it's time to listen in for kickoff.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Running down the sidelines and running in for the touchdown. And it is good!
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Dallas Cowboys visit the Chicago Bears at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
It's a block, easy touchdown, a walk-in touchdown. The third time's a charm.
At home or on the